Okay, every once in a while here on 80 Day Ride, we get somebody really special. When I think of one of the legends of the game, online legends, the original GOATs, you think of durrrr, Tom Dwan. Let's go get him. Each and every summer, thousands upon thousands of poker players descend upon Las Vegas.
Let's just drive to the fucking series. Why not, right?
Okay, let's do it.
Go.
Tom Dwan, guys.
I'm
I
not
got
gonna
Tom Dwan in the
we
car.
Can drive there and wave it somewhere or some shit.
Okay.
Wait, so sorry, what's your bit? What's your intro?
Well, I usually go, thousands upon thousands of poker players descend upon Las Vegas with hopes of winning millions of dollars and a World Series of Poker bracelet. But I've got Tom Dwan in the car who seemingly doesn't care about World Series of Poker bracelets. What do you care about? Like, what is it that inspires you? What drives you? Huh?
I'll take the millions of dollars.
Okay, so you want the $1 million.
Yeah. What's the bracelet now?
Do you care about the bracelets?
Not really.
Not at all.
I mean, when I did the bracelet bets, it was because like it would have helped for sponsorship shit back then when it was like Full Tilt and Stars days.
Right.
Now we're getting like another poker boom kind of bit, so yeah, I guess it kind of like pains me to admit that it matters, but I guess it does matter.
But you don't really care about it.
No, I mean, I guess since it matters, I do a little bit, but it's like I'm like embarrassed to admit it to myself that I do a little bit,
Hey, talk about the evolution of you as, I want to go through a couple of things. First, as a poker player, from the early days where you were just everybody's favorite online and where you are today. I mean, I commentated on you when you beat Phil Ivey.
Yeah, you just told me that. I didn't remember that.
Which
that was
at the time, by the way, was the biggest pot in the history of televised poker. $1.1 million, 4 clubs on the turn, and you got 6-7 versus ace deuce. How is your game, how have you as a person, as a poker player, evolved over the last, 18 years, 17 years?
I mean, that hand wasn't that long. That hand was like 10 years ago.
12
years ago. Maybe 12.
No, that was like 2009, dude.
Really?
Yeah, at least 15 years ago, 16 years ago.
Well, I think online was a lot more prevalent, and now a lot more of the high stakes games are live. Now to be playing high stakes online is a lot more complicated. I didn't see that coming. If you told me in 2009 I was going to be playing, like spending more and more time playing live poker than online, I never would have seen that coming. Yeah. But then again, I, didn't know that the sites were going to get shut down and shit, so.
Hey, from a poker perspective, tournament perspective, we have seen Victor Blom, one of the online crushers from yesteryear, here at the World Series of Poker, playing some of the big high rollers and running pretty deep. Can you see yourself getting there? Can we see Tom Dwan playing for bracelets? Like Victor Blom?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably play the PLOs. I might day two the 10K. I'll probably play the 25 and the 50.
You play the main?
Yeah, I have some shit to do around then though, because the main's like
it's like July 4th.
6th or 7th is like the last days. I got to be in LA like the 6th or 7th. Maybe I could come back.
Do you just not have the patience to do that many days, grinding that many players?
I mean, if you knew you're going to run deep enough, obviously I'm happy to, but the reality is a lot of times it's like a few days set aside.
Like, do you want to go 4 days and win $16,000?
Yeah, that doesn't sound that great.
I mean, it sounds good to me.
I mean, there's a lot of cash games going.
Right, no, I get it.
Plus, there's the days off in between and shit too, right?
Like, cash game scene right now. The landscape has changed. It's a lot of private games now. How have you found that? What do you think of it? Is it? I know some of the professional poker players are kind of against it and think it's it's not right. You got to know the right people and massage the right people to get in. What's your opinion of that?
I mean, they might be against it, but that's like the old man shouts at cloud kind of shit, right? Like, this is happening, it's there, and part of why it's there is because a lot of the power structures for a long time listened to the most vocal people, which was often the pros, because the pros, are going to spend more effort and time trying to push rules in their favor, push structure in a way that's better for them. And imagine, for example, someone like Santosh, right? When Santosh first came last summer.
How awesome is that, by the way? Santosh, $5.4 million. He won a bracelet.
Awesome. That's true. When he first came last summer, everyone was trying to pill him 100 different directions, and he's really nice, so he just said yes to a lot of people, right? And then sure enough, at a certain point, he started getting a bit annoyed, right? And I think I don't even know if he said this, that's at least my read.
Right.
Right, but like, that kind of stuff happens, and then what you get is more and more private games, right? And I don't really like that, but that's kind of a consequence of, I don't think
the predatory world that poker is sometimes. Is that what it is?
I mean, I would put that, on the online sites and the World Series more than anyone. I think even Triton has some blame in that, and I think Triton is better than almost every other organization in poker with that. That we cater more to the VIPs, to the businessmen. We try to not let their voices get drowned out by the pros that are louder because they care more about it or whatever. But if you don't spend a bunch of time trying to think of what the businessmen want, what the recreationals want, then the people that do will set up a game or a tournament or whatever that they like more, and all of a sudden the pros will be like, oh wait, I want to go play that one because that's the best game. So I kind of think it's more of like an inevitability that this stuff will happen. I wish the organization spent more time on it. I think the only one that spends even a little bit of time on it is Triton, and that's part of where our success comes from. So.
I want to talk about the two big hands that I was lucky enough to commentate on. The commission that you have yet to pay me. No, but
this is the commission, buddy.
This is it. Wow. So 1.1 million off Phil Ivey, and $3.1 million pot off Wesley on Hustler Casino Live. Take us through those moments, and not just at the time of your career, at the time of your life, what it was like to win a 7-figure pot. When you were relatively a young man back in 2009, I want to say.
I mean, the Ivy, when we were playing giant pots against each other all the time, in Bellagio, and I think mostly Bellagio back then. I don't think that one was.
So was it not a big deal except for the fact that it was on TV?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was probably one of the bigger pots we played, but we played a lot of big pots, and then we played big pots in Macau after and stuff. Yeah, I think that one wasn't as. That one might have meant more to other people than it did to me, kind of thing, right? Because for me, it was like, yeah, it just happened to be on TV. The Wesley one was a bit different because Wesley and I never really played big, right? And you had all these different dynamics of like, in hindsight, like, yeah, I was probably quite a large amount right with my guesses, but at the time, I'm like, I'm paying off this guy that's basically a nit because I have all these 7 different reads that I think kind of add up.
What were the reads, by the way? It was such a weird hand.
So I kind of went into that day thinking he was likely to go for it a bit extra. So I didn't really
Against you?
Just in general, but probably if I had to guess, step 1 was go for it a bit extra. And then step 2 was probably a little more against me than other people.
Right, there's a notch in a belt. I mean, hey, listen, like, I bluffed Tom Dwan, right? That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, that was my guess, but I wasn't very sure of either of those reads. And then obviously I think Doug gave away quite a lot when he, the way he acted when he saw Wesley's cards, right? And then I think Wesley,
which created a whole awkward. I know Doug felt so bad about it. He did everything he could not to give anything away.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I think he did it not perfect, right? Like, I think that's the reality is. Okay. If you see the guy has ace king on the button, you look down, and unless you have if I had 2 10s, I would just be like, throw it away and yell at the guy, right? Like, whatever, right? Yell at him after the hand. Right. It's different if Wesley had Jack 7 suited, then you're in a weirder spot. But okay. I've had this kind of spot a lot where you happen to see someone's cards, you try to say nothing till the hand's over, right? In other words, if you can just fold, you fold, right? If it's a spot you got to play. Like I had one the other day in a PLO game here where I was in the tank on the river for a while with a hand I was for sure going to bet because I was like, how do I explain? I had seen one of the guy's cards. Right, so it was a spot. I think I had the nuts, or basically the nuts. But I was like, I happen to have seen this guy's card. I kind of.
But you also have the nuts,
right? And I was thinking of how I was gonna. I forget what I even ended up doing in that spot. But basically, my point is, if you don't have something you got to do, in Doug's spot, he could just fold. Right, he has ace king. The guy has ace king on the button. You can just fold almost all your hands
and not say anything until after the hand.
Yeah, after the hand, you can be like, you fucking idiot. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
I saw both of your fucking cards. You're a poker player. Like, what are you doing? You know? But then Wesley also never acknowledged that, right? If Wesley had, soon after Doug said that, if Wesley had acknowledged that, I think it would have, right, if he had been like, oh, yeah, you saw my cards, I would have been less trusting of my read on that. Right? The fact that he never acknowledged that, like, and then throughout the hand, kind of every step of what he did fit into this story of like, I just didn't think the guy had it. And then the only question was whether he flopped it or not, or whether he got there. And like that I thought was very possible, but I, you know.
Like just some random bluff that he had that happened to hit like trips or something like that, right?
Yeah, I thought that was very, very possible. But
more possible than aces in that particular spot.
Not on paper, but because of the dynamics of the live read type stuff. Yeah, I thought that was aces was a lot less likely than like an 8 or a rivered straight or some shit.
I'm taking you back, by the way.
Really?
I'm taking you back. See?
All right.
We're good. Hey, so you just mentioned that, you know, if I told you in 2009 that you'd be playing more live poker today, you'd never believed it. What's next for you? Like, what do the next 10 years look like? If I were to bump into you 15 years from now and convince you somehow to give me 9 minutes and do another one of these, what would you be doing? I mean,
we're down from 20 to 9. All right.
Yeah.
I like this progress.
What would you be doing? Would you still be playing poker? Or are you a businessman? What are you doing?
I like poker. I think a lot of people say they love poker. I'm not sure whether all of them do or not. I definitely don't love poker.
No. Did you used to?
No, I don't know that I ever really did. Right. I think there's some really interesting things about it. If I haven't played for a month, like, yeah, it's fun to go play for a few days. If I'm sitting there grinding, 12, 15 hours a day, every day for a week, I'm not looking forward to playing the 16th hour. I'm like, not to say I won't if the game's good or whatever, I will, but...
But is it more work for you?
Well, I think I'm kind of describing, there was, like in the last year, there were, I think, 2 different times I didn't play for a month or 2. The first few days I played, it didn't feel like work at all, right? It's like fun, especially I'm around, like both of those games were around like people I liked, good games, fun games, like everyone's splashy. It didn't feel like work, right? Now, yeah, 3 weeks in, if I've been playing every day, it starts feeling a little bit like work again, right? And I think in time, I would like to have more and more of my time spent playing only when I enjoy it and less of the work type.
What do you do? What does Tom Dwan do when you're not playing poker?
Well, so I've done a bunch of shit throughout the years, some random business stuff, whatever. But the last 2 or 3 years, I've spent a bunch more time on crypto, and I think there's a good chance that continues. I just think the opportunity there is pretty strong, and it's.
Are you giving crypto advice right now?
We're not at that point yet, but
okay.
But I think it's like. There's definitely some stuff I find a bit more rewarding with that, right? It's not zero sum. And it happens, there's a lot of overlap between poker and crypto. So, if I could have the same level of kind of access to AI deal flow that I did crypto, maybe I would spend time there, but I don't. It happens, a bunch of the people in crypto love poker. So, it's a little easier to open doors and stuff there. And those are 2 of the industries I think are going to have the better returns in the next decade or so. So.
Controversy, obviously you have been in and around poker for such a long time now. And in many ways, like you're the face of the poker boom, I think. People think about...
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I think people look at Chris Moneymaker and they go, okay, we look at Rounders.
I feel like he's way more the face.
He might be the face, but I just feel like when we look at online and we look at the boom and we think of the players that kind of came out of that, the young generation that came out of that, you and Phil Galfond and the Jason Koons of the world and all those players that kind of started playing online, many people looked up to you as just like the original, the original GOAT.
Okay. I didn't really know that.
No?
Oh.
How do you? If you didn't know it, it's gonna be hard to answer the question, but I'll ask it anyway. How do you deal with that sometimes? Like fans coming up to you and just like people that just absolutely like, Tom Dwan, oh my God, pictures and this and.
I mean, I think I generally try to find time for fans. I think like if they're coming up often, it means, you know, a minute of my time, maybe they'll remember for a while or whatever.
1 minute's fine, apparently. You asked for 20, though. Forget it.
No, I mean, I've
like pulling teeth.
definitely had times people, like, I'm in the middle of something or people aren't respectful or whatever, or try to, you know, and then I'll kind of like cut stuff a little short or whatever. But I think, you know, 90% or whatever of the people that come up are like generally respectful. I think, you know, anyone who's like thinking about that, I generally don't mind them doing it. The people that aren't thinking about that are the ones that I wish wouldn't, because I've definitely had a few of those, right? Where people are a little
You're having dinner with friends or something, somebody comes up to you in the
middle. Family's sad. I've had people like interrupt when like my mom's sad, or, you know, or girlfriend or ex or whatever is sad or something, and like this kind of moment, and they come up to interrupt, and it's like, yo, like, fuck off, I'm busy. Like,
right. I get that. That's got to be hard.
I had one time at dinner with my mom and dad, and like 10 years ago or something here, and someone interrupted, and I was like too nice to him, and maybe it was 12 years ago, and they're like, my dad never got upset by anything like that. He always was, and it was like one time it slightly hurt his feelings, and it changed how I was a little. I was like, from then I was like a little sterner after, because the guy was like being an asshole, and I was like nice anyway.
You've been in the limelight for a while. Controversy naturally follows you. There have been some instances.
I don't know why that is the case, but I think there's been moments that has been, right? And I think it's kind of something that's not my favorite thing of the poker world. It's probably part of why I like stepped away from like a few eras. You know, I thought when like Full Tilt went down, I thought a lot of people gave me shit like really fucking unfairly. And then recently, like, I had, you know, a guy that used to be my friend that I thought was a complete asshole, and a bunch of people messaged me, and very few of them like said stuff, right? It's like, I don't know. I feel like people look at, like, poker world type people look at that stuff from like an equity perspective of like, oh, it's not that plus EV for them to speak up, so then they don't. And I don't know. I don't like how the poker world is PR wise. Okay,
so some of the controversy that's followed you is maybe, you know, money you owe, debts you haven't paid back. I have no judgment on this because I don't know any of the stories, but I'm curious if you have any comment on those things.
You know, I definitely haven't handled every situation perfect in my life. It happens that the stuff that people were talking about that were public were spots where I didn't do anything wrong, or at least at the most like a very small thing. And people who know the situations know those. But people tried to paint a certain story, and unfortunately, certain people in poker didn't mind adding to that fire when they, you know, should have known better or did know better. Including some of the poker sites, believe it or not.
I'm sure.
But luckily, we're arriving here, so I won't go shit on people that planted stories about me.
That's fair.
And tried to pretend it wasn't them.
Okay, before I park and let you out, I'm going to ask you one last question. Why are David Tuchman and Nick Wealthall the best commentating duo?
You mean used to be?
No. David Tuchman and Nick Wealthall. Why are we the best? Go ahead. The answer is very simple. Who is Nick Wealthall?
Who's that?
Right. Thank you. Hey, Tom. Thank you so much. I would say good luck in the World Series of Poker, but I don't even know.
I might play tomorrow. The 10K.
Go fucking get him, okay?
I'm gonna try.
Hey.
That was a
really good
handshake.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That wasn't bad, right?
It wasn't bad. You didn't extend it. It wasn't bad.
Thank you. I appreciate it.